The air itself felt heavy in the dimly lit back room, a stark contrast to the sterile corridors of the nearby medical facility where the Lazarus Project's horrors unfolded. Senator Anna Wright, the woman whose face usually graced propaganda posters with unwavering resolve, now sat hunched over, weariness etching lines into her features that no amount of image manipulation could erase. Across the makeshift table sat figures that under normal circumstances would never share such clandestine company. A grizzled veteran, haunted eyes staring at the untouched drink before him, his uniform stripped of its usual gleaming insignia. A bespectacled scientist whose normally pristine lab coat bore the subtle stains of hurried, unsanctioned work. And finally, a figure shrouded in a tattered cloak, the hood obscuring their features. This was not a meeting of power players, of those used to shaping destinies from positions of authority. This was the gathering of the desperate, united by a chilling certainty. They were on the losing side of a moral war, and their enemy lay not across a distant star system, but within the very heart of the Federation they served. Anna's voice, normally a weapon honed for political battles, was barely above a whisper. "The reports," she began, then faltered, as if the words themselves were a condemnation. The veteran closed his eyes, the scientist fidgeted, and the cloaked figure remained unnervingly still. Each of them carried the weight of witnessing the transformation of the Lazarus Resurrection Project from a whispered hope against extinction to a monstrous inevitability. They'd seen the data, the sanitized euphemisms in official files masking the grim reality. Once brave volunteers now became twisted echoes, sacrificed again and again on the altar of victory. They'd heard the rumors of black sites, of experiments that went beyond the mere restoration of life into a grotesque perversion of science. And worst of all, they'd witnessed firsthand the creeping shift in the public perception. The initial revulsion fading, replaced by a hungry fascination with the Phoenix Squad, their monstrous resurrections warped into some dark, heroic myth. The Federation was rotting from the inside out, its moral bedrock crumbling under the promise of endless victory, no matter the cost. It was a war they couldn't win on the battlefield. Every enemy soldier struck down was an empty victory when their sacrifice only fueled the Federation's monstrous machine. This was a war of conscience, fought in the back rooms, in hushed whispers, and in the sleepless hours where monstrous choices clawed at what was left of their souls. It was a war against apathy, against ambition, against the insidious acceptance of the unimaginable. Anna's hand closed around the slim datapad on the table, the cool metal a stark reminder of the horrors it contained. This wasn't just abstract statistics or political calculations. This was the quantified suffering they had helped unleash. "We need to strike at the source," the veteran finally spoke, his rough voice thick with a chilling resolve. "Not outposts, not supply lines. It's the primary research facility, the one where they're pushing the boundaries." His weathered hands clenched into fists, the scarred knuckles turning white. The scientist, ever the pragmatist, scoffed. "You think blowing up a lab will achieve anything? They have backups, redundancies, and the knowledge itself is the weapon. It can't be erased so easily." A cold silence fell. The cloaked figure shifted, the faintest rustle of cloth the only outward sign of their agitation. "Information can be a more potent weapon than explosives," they rasped, their voice strangely distorted. "This project thrives on secrecy, on manipulated public opinion. One well-placed leak, a seed of doubt planted in the right hands, that might achieve more lasting damage. The debate flared, hushed and urgent. Each of them carried the weight of their own complicity, actions taken, compromises made in a desperate scramble for survival that now felt like stains on their souls. Yet here, in this dimly lit room, a desperate hope flickered. Not the hope of glorious victory, but perhaps a chance to claw back a sliver of humanity from the abyss they had helped create. Anna's gaze swept across the faces of her unlikely allies. The veteran, his stoic facade finally cracking to reveal the gnawing guilt beneath. The scientist, her eyes feverish with a desire to undo the consequences of her brilliance. And the cloaked figure, an enigma even now, but whose presence underscored the chilling reality. This was no longer a fight of armies and ideals, but a resistance woven from the remnants of shattered consciences. "We do both," Anna finally declared, her voice stronger now. "Sabotage to disrupt their progress, to buy time. And the leak, it needs to be undeniable, and it needs to reach beyond the Federation." Her eyes glinted with grim determination. "If the project is built on lies, then let the entire galaxy see the truth, no matter the consequences for ourselves." It was a reckless plan, born from a chilling certainty that they were already condemned. But it was a path they would walk with eyes open, no longer pawns in a monstrous game, but players making their final desperate gamble to shatter the board itself. The plan coalesced with the grim efficiency born of desperation. The veteran, haunted by memories of battles fought, and the hollow victories fueled by the Phoenix Squad, knew the facility's layout from his past visits. Those had been tours extolling progress, showcasing the Lazarus Project's potential to a hungry military. Now, those same corridors became the skeletal framework of their sabotage mission. He wasn't a spy, trained in stealth and subterfuge, but a soldier accustomed to the brutal honesty of the front lines. Every step through those now chillingly familiar halls felt like a betrayal, yet he forced himself onwards. This was not an act of valor, but of penitence, a desperate attempt to atone for his past complicity. The scientist, her usually meticulous mind buzzing with a mix of fear and frantic purpose, provided the tools. Subtle chemical compounds meticulously crafted to destabilize the delicate equilibrium of the stabilizer solution, the key to the unnatural resurrections. It wouldn't be a fiery explosive strike, but a silent corruption, a poison seeping into the heart of their monstrous creation. Meanwhile, the cloaked figure vanished into the shadowy networks of the galactic underbelly. They were the most enigmatic of them all, their motives veiled, their very identity a cipher. Yet, they possessed a web of contacts the others could only envy. Informants, smugglers, those who thrived in the grey spaces between the stars. Their task was the most perilous: to find a messenger, someone who could spirit the data beyond the tightly controlled borders of the Federation. Each step was fraught with tension. Anna, the politician, now orchestrated from the shadows, leveraging favors long owed, pulling strings she'd once relied on for advancing agendas that now seemed sickeningly naive. Every intercepted transmission, every furtive meeting, carried the risk of exposure, the looming threat of becoming exemplars of the Federation's ruthlessness against those who dared dissent. Nights were filled with a different sort of dread than the nightmares of war. This was the fear of the unseen, of whispers turning into accusations, of a faceless enemy that lay within the very heart of their beloved Federation. Yet, amidst this chilling uncertainty, there was a strange, desperate resolve. They were traitors, yes. But in betraying the chilling ideals the Federation had embraced, they were fighting to salvage the last remnants of a humanity worth saving.